Hello, book lovers! How have you been? So, today I'm here to talk a little bit about my challenge around the world in 50 books. I'm going to explain what it is, like, what is this challenge, and where the idea came from. And I'm going to show you also all the books that I've read for the challenge and how the challenge will continue in the future. All right, so come with me. Alright, book lovers. So, I will tell you guys how the idea appeared out of nowhere. Actually, didn't come to me like this challenge was sent to me by a company. I used to have a subscription in a company, like a book subscription in a company called Tag. It's a Brazilian company, subscription company. That's the name, Tag. And they used to send a book and a small gift. And in one of these boxes, because you receive a box and then you open the box and the book is a surprise. You never know which book you will receive, like it's always a surprise, and you don't know the gift that you will receive too. And in one of the boxes, the gift was this list. I will define it as a list. I will show you guys. This is the list. It's a gigantic list, and the title is Around the World in 50 Books. So they sent us 50 suggestions of books, and each book belongs to a different country. So actually here we have the name of 50 countries, and you will discover which book is when you scratch here and the name appears. Let me show you, like here, South Korea. I already scratched, and then you can see the name of the book here. So I decided to bring the challenge to the channel. I started this challenge in 2009. Let me see here. I have the paper with all the names of the books that I've read here. So I started in October 2019. I said the wrong year, but it's 2019. So I started in October 2019, and I was presenting every month one of the books from the challenge in my Brazilian YouTube channel. And I wanted to introduce you guys to the idea. So I will tell you first all the books that we've read for the challenge so far, and how the challenge will continue here in the English channel. So now you know that the names of the books were not, I didn't decide. I was not the person who decided which book I was going to read for each country. They gave the suggestion here. I just removed and found the name, and then I started reading the books. The first continent that we traveled to in the challenge was the Asian continent. So I will tell you guys all the books that we've read for the Asian continent. The first book that I've read for the challenge was Please Take Care of Mom. I don't know if this is the correct translation in English, but this book is from South Korea, and it's a very beautiful story about a family that discovers that the mother figure of the family disappears, and then all the relatives there in the family, like the father, the siblings, they start remembering, like they start thinking about their mother or their wife, and where should she be, like where can she be, like in the world, like where has she gone, because she disappeared. And then they start calling each other, and as they call and talk to each other to try to find her and find a hint where she is, she also remembers things from her life, and they all remember things from her life. And the book is like a sad, it's a sad book, but also it's like it's beautifully written, but at the same time it has this like sense of missing the person, not knowing where the person is, and they wonder, they are always asking themselves if they treated her right, if they respected her, if they were good like children, or in the case of the husband, if he was a good husband. So it is a very beautiful and delicate book, but also sad in some moments. I really like books from South Korea. They are very, like, all the books from South Korea that I've read, they were well written. I really liked it. I also read like The Good Son, which is a thriller, like a crime, and I really liked. But for the project, this was the first book, and this is the picture, okay? It is raining, and it's raining a lot, but I don't know if you guys can listen to the rain, so hopefully the audio is not going to be like all crazy and you guys will be able to listen to me. So the second book that I've read was from Japan. The name is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. This book's one of the best books I've read for the challenge so far. It's so nice and sad too. Like, I don't know what about like sad books I like, but I like them anyways. And this book is divided in 3 short stories, and the first 2 stories, they are connected, and the last story is like a little bit disconnected, but the theme is the same, and the theme is losing someone you love and how you can deal with the loss. So the first 2 short stories, they are connected, they have the same characters, but the last one doesn't, but the theme of losing someone is the same. So I recommend this book, it's really good. I don't have the physical copy, that's why the picture is here. But I really want to buy the physical copy one day because I want to reread it because it's that good. Like, it's so good that I want to read it again and have that experience again. Number 3, the third book I've read, I have it here. The name, let me see if they have the name in English here. So the third book in English, the name is The Saddlebag, and this edition is from the company the subscription company Tag, and it's an amazing edition. Look at this, it's so well done. All the artwork is so good, it's so beautiful inside. See, they really invest in their art in Tag. See, inside the font is good, the paper is good. See the other side, and it comes with this book cover and an extra material. You can read here about the author, you can read about the person who chose this. So The Saddlebag is a book divided in 9 chapters, and it tells the story of the saddlebag. Actually, it tells the story of 9 different people and how they come in contact with the saddlebag, like how this saddlebag interferes with their lives. So all these stories, all these different people end up having in some sort of way contact with this saddlebag, and it happens in the middle of the desert. It's very interesting, but a suggestion I give you guys is don't read the entire book like in 1 week, or don't try to read it fast, because I wanted to read it for the challenge and I had like a day to finish reading it. So since it's 9 chapters, all evolve like all about this saddlebag, it kind of makes it a little bit repetitive, like it repeats this story again and again. So my suggestion is read this book as a short stories book, like read 1 story in 1 week and then wait the whole week to start the new story. Like read chapter 1 in 1 week and then next week read chapter number 2, because I think this way you will appreciate the book more, because it is very well written. But since I read like all the chapters in the same like week, I got tired of the same story. But the last chapter, like chapter number 9, is so beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's my favorite chapter here. So yes, I mean, it's not the best book I read for the challenge, but it's good. It is good. I recommend it, but read it slowly, slowly. Next book is a book from Saudi Arabia. Let me see here the name in English. The original name is Girls from Riyadh. This is the name in English, Girls of Riyadh. And it is a romance about the Middle East nowadays, like how women live now in the Middle East, specifically in Saudi Arabia. So it is like a portrait of their society and how is the dynamic between women and men and young women, how they live. It's very interesting, and it is written with like a youthful language. It's kind of for young adults. So yes, it is not like the best book either, but it is very interesting to read about their reality, because like compared to my reality, it's very different, and I like to learn about different cultures. That's why I'm doing the challenge. So yes, I recommend Girls of Riyadh, and it's a very entertaining, quick read. I think it's nice, guys. Next book is this one, and it's so good, so good. The name in English, let me check here for you guys. So the original name is not in English, but the translation, the literal translation is One Night Markovitch, and this is the author, Ayele Gundagoshen. I will put here. If I find the picture of the English version, I will put it here for you guys. But this book is really good, really good. It tells a story of like Markovitch is a guy who decides to travel to another country to help some women who are living in this country, and the country is going to war. So these women want to leave that country and go to Markovitch's country for protection, to run away from war actually. So to go to Markovitch's country, they have to marry a man and travel. So Markovitch go to their country as a volunteer to get married with any kind of woman, like a random woman, to protect her from war and take her to his country. But then when they arrive in his country, they were supposed to get divorced. Like that is the contract, like I help you by marrying you, but then when we arrive there, we get divorced, and that's it. You can live in my country. Like it was like an arranged marriage, but to get the visa, to get the green card. But I mean, it was not called green card because it's not in the United States. However, Markovitch falls in love with his fake wife, and he refuses to get divorced. Like he refuses, and he says like, I'm never gonna divorce you because I will make you love me. Like he loved her, like he fell in love with her when he saw her. So he promised that he would make her love her. And then the story starts, like how is this couple going to live together? How is the dynamic going to happen? And the story has like a magical feel to it. Like some parts of the story, they look like they sound realistic, but they sound magical too. And also the oranges here, it is a hint, because a very important scene in the book has to do with oranges and the smell of oranges. Actually, the author here compares a lot of things to smells of fruits, and then the smell that the orange has is really prevalent and predominant here. And it's so interesting because I can feel the smell of oranges even though I'm not smelling it, because it's so well detailed and so well written that it really feels like it's true. So really recommend. This is like top 3 or top 5. I really liked it. Like this one and Kitchen is like, oh, you have to read it. You have to. And then next book is I Killed Sherazade by Jomana Haddad. Guys, this book is really, how can I say, if you can't read opinions from like strong people, strong women, if you don't agree, if you cannot even read opinions by people you don't agree, like don't read this book, because she is strong and she's opinionated. Let me see if the original name, yeah, the original name is I Killed Sherazade. This book is from, and Jomana Haddad is brilliant. She writes here her opinions regarding different topics, and she talks a lot about Muslim women and their stories and how they are portrayed and how that is not true. And she wrote the book to break the stigma. Like she wrote the book to break the labels that people usually attach to Muslim women, and it's brilliant. But she's strong and opinionated, so she is straightforward. She writes what she thinks and she means it. So if you're not strong enough, or if you're not open-minded enough to read a book like this, don't. But I love it. I really loved her work. Next one is from India, and you probably know which book I'm going to pull since it's from India. Yes, this one is the English version, The Satanic Verses. Yes, by Salman Rushdie. I don't know how to pronounce his Indian name, but yeah. So, oh my god, when I read this book, it took me so long to read it, and I tried to read it in Portuguese, but when I read this book, it took me so long to finish reading it, and it was so hard. I tried to read it in Portuguese, but since it was originally written in English, the translation, this is the kind of book that translators, they have a heart attack when they read it. Like when they read the original, they think like, this is impossible to translate. So I'm not saying that the translation in Portuguese was not good. Like the translator really did a good job. However, the book's so complicated and so well written and so detailed regarding language, because the accent of the characters are important. The words that the characters choose to say are important, and when you translate, you lose a lot of that because you translate. It doesn't matter if it's like the best translator ever. Like this is a book that if you can read in English, you should read in English, because you will lose a lot in the translation process, even if the translator is like brilliant. But I don't think this is like top 10 books from the challenge. I've read like, let me see, now I'm in book number 20, and this is not even like top 10 out of 20, because I don't think it should be as famous as it is. I don't think it's that good. It's just famous because of all the political scenario from the 80s and all the crazy stuff people like understood from the book that it's not even here. Okay, chapter number 2 is the problematic chapter, and if you have ever heard about this book, you know what I'm talking about. Chapter number 2 is the chapter that he writes things that are not really polite or correct or respectful regarding the Islamic religion. However, it's just chapter number 2, and he disrespects everybody and everything in this book. Like he just wrote this book, in my opinion, okay? After reading this book for like, I read this book 3 times, like, but I only understood it when I read the 3rd time. Like, this is the kind of book that you don't understand when you read the first time, and then the second time you think you are understanding it, but you don't. And then the 3rd time you say like, oh, this is what is actually written here, and it's not even that good. Like, he is a good writer, and it's well written. However, he just complains. It's like he made this book to complain about Muslim people, about immigrants, about England, about English people, about the English police. He says that Margaret Thatcher is like a murderer or something. Like, he insults Margaret Thatcher, who was, I think, the prime minister at the time. So like, he's just he made this book to cause a big commotion. Let's be real, when he wrote this book, he already had 2 bestsellers in England, so he was already famous. He was that kind of author who was like a celebrity author, just like Stephen King is a celebrity author. J.K. Rowling, she is a celebrity author. So he was a celebrity author in the 80s. So people knew who he is, and he knew that people knew him. So he knew that if he wrote a like really polemic book, he would make a lot of money. And I think he is smart enough to make it, like, he thought about it. A dumb person could never ever have written a book so well written like this one. So the author, someone is super smart. So because he is smart, he decided to make a book that would just like say negative things about everything and make everybody angry, and people would buy it, and he got a lot of money because of it. But people almost died because of the book. Like, a lot of negative things actually happened in the world, mainly the relationship between England and some like countries. Like, they almost went to war because of this book. So yeah, he was smart to write a good book that would sell complaining about everything, but it had like a gigantic negative impact in the world. So I think it's a book that people should read just because it's that famous and caused that much impact. But I think that if the book was not polemic, like if the book was not talking about the religion here, I think this book wouldn't even become a classic. I don't think this book would survive 40 years just for the writing. It's not a bad writing, like, it's actually really good, but at the same time, it's not like, I don't know, it's not Dickens, it's not I don't know, it's not Don Quixote, you know. I mean, it is good, but it's good, but it's not brilliant masterpiece. It's just complain about everything that people will get mad about, and then it will sell. I don't know, it's complicated. I made like a gigantic video about this book in the Brazilian channel. I don't know if the subtitles are like already coming in English, because I'm opened for the subtitles. But if you have the opportunity to watch people commenting about this book, watch it. Read if you have the patience to read it. But it's not the best book you will ever read, but it's good. Okay, moving on. I have this tendency to ramble, right? So after the Satanic Verses, a really good book here. Let me see the English. I don't know if this one has an English translation. If it doesn't, I will just translate for you guys the literal translation. But this book is good, really good. So yeah, it was originally written in French. So the translation is in Zenit. Zenit is a location. So the book is from Vietnam, and It is the story of like an ex-president who suffered a coup from a dictator, and he has to live in mosque. Like he has to live isolated at the top of a mountain in like this Buddhist temple, or sort of a Buddhist temple. And when he is like living there and he cannot get out, he starts telling his story, and the story of Vietnam and the country and the villagers. And it's so well written. Like this author, the name is, I can't pronounce it, but this author is amazing with descriptions. Like it's top level descriptions. I've read this book. I read it in October 2020. So 1 year ago I read this book, and I still remember the views and the details of the villages and the mountain. Like it was so well described that I still have the memory in my mind of the places, but I've never been to those places, and it's incredible. That's how the power of good description works. Like I can still remember it. I don't know. I still remember parts of the conversations from the villagers, and one thing that I love is that the characters speak differently. Like the villagers, they have any specific vocabulary, and then the president has a different vocabulary, and then like people from the village that have a little bit more money and a better social status, they say different things. So this way you can differentiate characters, like because when the author is not that good, everybody just sounds the same. It's just like everybody says the same things, but in real life it doesn't happen. Like in real life, different people say different things. Like different people have a different group of words that they use the most, and their vocabulary presents a little bit of their personality too. So this is important, and this book has it, and I love it. I really do. This one is like, oh, top 5 for sure. Next one is this one here. Let me get it for you guys. Let me see if they have. So the name in English is Night of the Golden Butterfly. This book is from Pakistan, and it is an okay book by Tariq Ali. The thing is, it is like an okay book. It's not really bad, but it's not amazing. Like I almost don't remember the story. But I remember that it's the story of like a guy and a girl. They liked each other when they were younger, and then something happens that they follow different paths, and they spend like years and years and years without seeing each other. And then when they meet again, they are like I don't know, 30 years after or 40 years after, they are like, they have families and they have a life, and then they remember what happened to them and why they didn't get together. But in the middle of the story, they talk a lot about politics. And one of the things that I don't like about books that try to talk about politics is when everything that the characters do is complain about politics. I don't like it. Like if you're going to try to portray something important that is happening in a place, and if you're going to talk about politics, don't do it in a way that your characters will complain all the time about the situation. Like try to show their lives, try to show like, oh, this person is really poor because this coup happened, or this person suffered an economic loss because that happened in the story of the country. But when you have like, this book is about like rich characters complaining about politics, basically, with a romance in it. But yeah, all of them are rich, And yes, so that's it. That's it. Like, I don't have a lot other things to say about it. It is nice to read stories from other countries, but I like when it is like in Zenit. I like when like the author really can describe the country to me, like describe the village for me, describe how this villager speaks, describe what he eats, because then I will understand the situation of the country at that time. But when you just have like rich characters complaining about something, I don't know. I don't know how Pakistan looks. I've never looked at a picture. I've never been there. So why don't you describe here? Why don't you describe what a person, a normal person there eats? Where does this person sleep? Why don't you describe the reality? Because if you describe the reality, I will get to know the political scenario. Like, if the reality is like everybody's poor, nobody has water in their houses, people are dying from starvation, I know they're probably like they have a dictator or something really bad is going on with their politics. You don't have to put your like you don't have to make your characters complain about the situation for me to know. You can describe the situation with the characters' lives. That's I think the best way to talk about political scenarios in books. Like, just don't complain about it through your characters. Describe the scenario, the situation of the country. Then I will understand it. Like, that's one of the things that I learned in a course about like reading and writing, mostly about writing. Like, don't suppose that the reader is dumb. Actually, always always have this assumption that your reader is smart, because if you have the assumption that the only way your reader will understand the information is if you actually put the sentence in the book, it's boring for the reader, because actually the best way is to imagine the reality and then understand the political scenario. But if you just like, okay, for example, in 1987, this happened, I'm not going to remember. I won't remember. I just won't, because this book is not a historical book. It's a fiction. When I want to study history, then I will find a historical book, like an actual book to study the history with the dates and the facts, and then I will read again and again and again until I memorize. But that's not the point of this book, And then there is another book that does the same thing, and I will talk about it. Next one is one of my favorites, Sky Burial by Xiran from China. I love this book. It's so good and well written. This is the kind of book that you write when you want to talk about something negative going on in your society. So Xiran is a journalist, the author, and she writes about women's life. And then in this book specifically, she interviews one woman and she narrates what this woman told her in the interview. So this book is the story about a character that was a nurse, and then China went to war with, I don't know if it's Taiwan or another country. I don't remember the country that China was in war with, but this woman gets married and her husband is a doctor and he's sent to war as a doctor, and then I think 2 months go by and then she doesn't have she doesn't hear from him for like these 2 months. So she's a nurse. She decides to go to war too as a nurse and try to find her husband. And then this story is this journey to try to find this person, and she goes around the other country, like the entire country around this husband. She doesn't know where he is. She doesn't know if he's alive or not. There is a war going on, and then she gets lost. Like, she loses her the group of soldiers that are with her. There is a moment that she goes in a different path, and she spent so many years looking for her husband. And I mean, it is a very, very beautiful story, very emotional. But I can still remember. I remember some of the the locations she went through, the forests. The description is really well done here. Then I remember the facts, you know. And Shiran is a journalist. She didn't need to write the dates and the facts for me to understand. She just narrated beautifully this story. She described beautifully. So I remember. So next book is let me see here the name in English. So this book was written in Portuguese and it's like Nossa Senhora do Nilo, by Scholastic Mukasonga. This book is from Rwanda, and yeah, it is like an okay book. It talks about a girl in a school, like a private school for rich people, and the implications in the society because she is from an like a she has a heritage that in that country is not well seen, so she suffers a little bit of a prejudice, and she narrates her school days and what happened there. You know, really nice. It's not like the best, but it's okay. And then next one. So the name is Salt Statue. It's, I don't know if it in English is really this name, but it talks about the story of a man who doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere. He doesn't feel like he belongs in his country, and he doesn't belong in his family. He doesn't feel like he has a place or a language. He's very lost and confused, and he comes from a really poor background, but his life changes a little bit. It is a nice, interesting book, but as you can see, I don't remember many details. So yeah, it's an okay book. And then next one is from Angola. White people also can dance. That's the translation. The name of the author is Kalafe Palanga. This guy is a musician, and he has music with a very famous singer in America. I will put her name here. The main character is Kalaf. He's going to Norway to play in like a big musical event, but he loses his passport and he goes to jail, and people don't believe that he is this big musician. Like the policemen in Norway don't know who he is, and since he doesn't have his passport, he looks like someone who's going to enter with drugs or something in Norway. So he goes to jail, and the book talks about like the hours, like, oh, I'm here in jail for 1 hour and this happens, and then he remembers other stories, and then other stories are mixed here, and it's very nice. It's a very nice book, but yeah, very fun. And next book is this book here. This name is in Portuguese, and it's a very funny book. Oh my god, this book is so funny. It's like this old man just left his will, and his will, it's like not expected by people, and he only had one person that everybody knew was his family member. He had a nephew, but then his nephew doesn't get anything, and he gives everything he has to another person, and then everybody in the city, like, this happens in a really small city, and people don't understand why he did it, and then like gossip starts going on, and then he also lets like his will is like 400 something pages, like it's a gigantic will, and legally the lawyer has to read it, so they spend like hours and hours and hours and hours reading the will. It's so it's funny. I had a lot of fun reading the book because it talks about his will and the consequences in other people's lives when people read his will and what he decided, and the narrator knows everything and knows the secrets of everybody, so you get to know everybody's secret even though like the characters don't know. It's a fun book, you should get it. And next book was The Case Meso, and it is a very heavy book because it talks about a man who lost his brother, his older brother. His brother was murdered at the beach, at a beach, but nobody really talked about who killed him and what happened to him. And actually, this book is like an answer for the book by Camus. The name is The Foreigner. I will put the exact name of the book by Camus here, but this book here is an answer to this book. It's like, because in Camus' book, the main character kills someone at the beach, and then the book revolves around the story of this man who kills someone at the beach, and the person who is killed in the book is not important. And then this book here is an answer, like, yes, that person was important, that person had a mother, that person had a brother. And it's really heavy, really sad, full of psychological things. Are a lot of psychological things are mentioned here, and it's very nice. It's a good book to read, but at the same time it's heavy and full of regret, full of guilt, full of sadness. It is a heavy book, but I liked it. I really think it was a good book to read. Next book is No Time Like the Present by Nadine Gordimer, and this book is from South Africa. But guys, I really didn't like this book. I really didn't like it. I don't think it was well written. It was really poorly written. All the characters have the same voice. You can't differentiate one character from the other. Everything that the characters do, like the entire book, and it's a gigantic book, like it's a big book, but everything that the characters do is complain about politics. Yeah, like you get to know a little bit about their lives. Like the story centers around a couple, a white man and a black woman. They get together, they fall in love before the apartheid finishes in Africa, so their relationship is illegal up to the point that apartheid ends, and then they can legally get married, but at that point they already have like a little daughter. And the book talks about the dynamic in this marriage between this interracial couple. However, everything that all the characters do is to complain, and I think that the complaining is by the author, and I didn't like that. I think that the characters needed more depth, and they don't have it. And there are scenes in the book that I have no idea why she wrote the scenes, like some sex scenes in the book that they don't fit the story. They have no purpose. They're just here to be here. So yes, this book is the worst book that I've read for the challenge up to now. I am in book number 20 this month, and this book is the worst. I still have 30 books to read for the challenge, so I don't know which one is going to be the worst, but up to now this one is. If you want to read a really good book that mentions the political scenario of the country, read In Zenit, the book from Vietnam. I think that book's really good. Next book is a really short book, is The One Who Is Deserving of Love. The name is in French, the original name, so I will translate, like free translation is The One Who Is Deserving of Being Loved, and by Abdullah Taya. This book's a really cathartic book, not for me but for the character. This book is divided in 4 letters, and the letters, 2 letters were written for the character, yes, and another letter he writes it. So yeah, 2 letters he writes and 2 letters he receives, and the letters were sent in different times in his life. Like the difference between one letter and the other is like years and years and years. And the letters talk about, the first letter is him sending a letter for his mother, and he resents his mother a lot. He resents his mother for the way she raised him and the way she treated him. The second letter is like a short love, like he had a lover for like a really short period of time, and this lover sends him a letter talking about like how much he loves him, and like asking why, like why didn't he call back, or why didn't he show up when he said he would. Like he ended up the relationship without actually giving an explanation to that person, so the person was a little bit sad or like lost. And then the other letter he writes to a lover he had for years and years and years. Like this lover is the lover who took him from the country where he was from, and took him to France, and they kind of married. They lived together for years and years and years, but then he grew, and he grew up, like he evolved, he matured, and their relationship was not good for him anymore, and he wanted to get out. And then he writes the letter to just get out of this man's life and leave him behind with the letter. Like he doesn't, with this relationship he says why, but he doesn't directly say why. Like he prefers to just get out and just leave the letter explaining. He doesn't really end things personally, because he had the feeling that he was kind of stuck in their relationship, and that if he had to do it in person he wouldn't. So he just wrote the letter before the guy woke up, and then he just went away. But it's a really heavy letter. This book is also another heavy book. It talks about very delicate subjects like relationships and self-love and love for others and love for your parents and the lack of love from the parent towards the child. It's a really heavy book, like full of emotion, but it's a very like, it's a quick read. Like this book's very like you read like this, it's very fast, but it's so emotional. Like the emotional impact is gigantic. And the last letter is from a boy that he liked when he was really young, and then the boy kills himself. But before killing himself, he writes the letter for the main character, and that's the last chapter. And it's another very emotional letter. It's a really good book to read, but you have to be in a happy state. Like you have to be happy to read such a sad book. Like you have to be like in a happy week before you start reading it. The next one is an amazing book. I loved this book so much. I don't know the name of the book because it is written originally in Portuguese. This book is from Mozambique. Yeah, the country is Mozambique. The name is O Alegre Canto da Perdiz by Paulina Chiziane. I will let it here, but it doesn't, I couldn't find the translation in English. I'm sure it was because Paulina was translated for like many languages, and usually the first language that people translate their books is English, because it's like the language that most people, even and when the language is not their first language, like they usually, the second languages that people speak is English. So I'm pretty sure that you can find. She is a brilliant writer. Like her writing is poetic, magical. The description is incredible. Like, oh, I'm in love with her writing. Like she's good. Like she's amazing. She's a really good author, and I'm excited to read more from her. Next one is Everything Good Will Come by Sefiata. Is a really nice book. It's the story of two friends. They were not allowed to be friends. Like these two girls were not allowed to be friends because the main character mother didn't want her to be friends with the neighbors. So they have like this secret friendship, but it's just a friendship. But something really, really bad happens to the friend, and they both get traumatized. And the main character's parents send her to England, to another country, because this book is from Nigeria. So she was born in Nigeria, but when that really bad thing happened to them, her parents sent her to England to study, and she lives there for a long time. And then these two friends, they can't keep in touch anymore because they're so distant. Like they like it was she was born the main character was born in 1960, so it's in a pre-internet world, so they couldn't keep in touch being in different countries, so they lose their friendship. But then after so many years, when the main character comes back to Nigeria, like out of nowhere, like in a coincidence, they meet again. And then like the story develop from them, and they kind of end up helping each other go through the hardships in life, you know. It's a very nice book about friendship. And also you get to know a lot of things about Nigeria, things that I didn't know, about the reality of people there, about the reality of the cities. So it's very informative regarding like their culture and how their society works. I really enjoyed this book. And this one I'm still reading. It's this month's book for the challenge Around the World in 50 Books. And this book is inspired by the story from Sherazade, 1001 Nights. I'm in the beginning of the book. See, I just read like this amount of pages. And the book starts, it's like I just read this part. So the book starts when Sherazade finishes her last story, and the book starts telling like, and now, like, okay, she already told 1,000 stories, and what is going to happen? And then in the first page, like the big, like the guy who was like keeping her as a slave, like imprisoned in his castle, he decides that she's going to become his wife. And the little village around the castle gets to know that, and then people start celebrating it. And the story of the book starts from this, like starts like what happens when Sherazade is not imprisoned anymore, she is the wife, and what impact it had in the village and in the little society that they were living there. So I mean, it's interesting, but the stories are a little bit scary sometimes. Like it's like people killing people, the like, you know, it's crazy. But yes, I'm just in the beginning, so I don't have many things to say. But how the challenge is going to happen? What I do is, this is the book we are going to read in October. So we are going to read this book the entire month, and on the first Saturday in November, we are going to discuss about this book. So on the first Saturday in November, I will upload a video with my perspective about the book. So I will talk about my experience, what I liked, what I didn't like, and since it's a challenge that we can do together, you can read to now this book in October, and you can just talk to me or like about your experiences in the comments of the video about the book. And every month we will have a different book from a different country. So I started the challenge with the books from Asia, and then I moved to Africa. Now, since we are in Africa, we are going to New Zealand and Australia. So in November we are going to read the book from Australia, and December we are going to read the book from New Zealand, and we are going to move to Europe. And then after Europe we are going to move to Americas, all the Americas, And we are going to end the challenge reading the book from Brazil, because we are going to come back home. I am going to come back home, and you guys will have the opportunity to read with me a Brazilian book. So yeah, that's it. I will scrap now the books from Australia and New Zealand so you guys can read with me in November and December. So this is the list with all the countries, and let me get here Australia. So this book for sure was written in English, and I will write here the name in English. The name in Portuguese is O Caminho Estreito para os Confins do Norte by Richard Flanagan. So this is the book we are going to read in November. And in December, where is New Zealand? Here. So the book from New Zealand is Short Stories by Catherine Mansfield. We're going to read together in December, so you guys can follow the challenge with me. Okay, hope you guys like, and then tell me here in the comments which from the books that I presented you today, which ones would you like to read and why? So let's have a conversation about them, okay? So if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to. That will help me a lot, because I need to get to 100 subscribers in order to be able to have a decent link for my video. So help me get my 100 subscribers, please. If you want to follow me on Instagram, we can chat a little bit more there. And thank you very much for watching, and see you on next videos. Bye.